Welcome. Hello, my name is Jen. I'm a library associate at Arlington Library, and I'm happy to introduce our presenter this evening, McKayla Coyle. McKayla is an author, editor, publishing coordinator, and fabulous goblin. Their guide to all things Goblin Core, Goblin Mode, is available from Sno-Isle. However, we are lucky enough today to have an expert in the field give us a crash course. So please join me in welcoming McKayla.
Hi. Um, so I am McKayla, obviously. I'm going to give you a little presentation about some of the tenets of Goblin Core, and then we're going to make a little zine about cozy stuff. It should be pretty simple. Um, so let's, I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen so you guys can see this presentation that I worked so hard on. Okay. Okay. So going Goblin mode with McKayla Coyle, which is me. We've got ideas and advice for embracing your weirdness and getting cozy. That's pretty much the subtitle of Goblin Mode. It is how to get cozy, embrace imperfection, and thrive in the muck. So it's all about um, just, making more room for yourself and not being ashamed of anything about you or afraid of how people are going to perceive you and like just trying to live a happier, more comfortable life, but not in like a um way where you gotta like not in like a toxic wellness culture way, you know. Okay, I'm McKayla. I'm the author of Goblin Mode. Um, and I'm here to talk to you about the book and talk to you about some of the tenets of Goblin Core and Goblin Mode, and then craft and also just generally get cozy. I'm an author from Anchorage, Alaska. Now I live in Seattle. Goblin Mode was my first book. It is a nonfiction lifestyle guide about the Goblin Core lifestyle, which we'll get into what that is more in a minute. Um, and uh, I have a second book forthcoming um, in May called Mothman is My Boyfriend, which is a short story collection of cryptid romances. So my first fiction book, which is exciting. And I'll also talk about that a little bit more later. Um, I am going to, yeah, okay. I made a little, I wrote up some notes so that I remember what I'm going to do. So I'm going to read you the little first section of the book. It's called Welcome Goblins, just to like give you a little background on Goblin Core so we're all on the same page and so that, just a good jumping off point. Okay, called Welcome Goblins. If you picked up this book, you're probably interested or came to this talk, you're probably interested in getting in touch with your goblin nature, even if you're not sure yet what that means. You might be looking for more ways to connect with nature and feel present in the world. You might be looking for a community of non-judgmental, curious people whose interests overlap with yours, however unconventional those interests may be. You might be tired of the constant performance associated with taste and style and looking for something that feels cozier and more representative of who you are. Whether you've been feeling one or all of these urges, the goblin could be just what you're looking for. We live in a culture that values perfection and conformity, so it can be difficult to feel like we have a place in the world if there's anything different about us. Our identities and relationships are boiled down to their simplest form so that we're easier to digest. The goblin lifestyle pushes back against the idea that we must be clean and smooth and poreless in order to exist in the world. Dirty, sticky weirdos are just as deserving of love as anyone else. Our worth isn't dictated by how easy we are to advertise to. But what do we mean by a goblin exactly? To start with, well, a goblin, a weird little guy from fairy tales and folklore. And from those weird little guys come the inspiration for goblin core. Goblin core is a term that originated on social media to describe a popular combination of clothing, decor, and general outlook. Adding the core suffix at the end of the word is a way to show that the particular clothing, decor, outlook combo is bound together by a taste or vibe. So goblin core is a set of tastes that feels inspired by or reminiscent of goblins. What kinds of things are reminiscent of goblins? Anything goblins love, like mushrooms, mud, and bugs. Goblin core is an aesthetic for those of us who are a bit too disorganized for minimalism, a bit too grungy for hygge, and probably a bit too sticky for anything else. If any of that sounds interesting, exciting, or familiar to you, then you've picked up the right book. In these pages, you'll learn how to incorporate a goblin spirit into your everyday life. From exercises to keep your observational skills sharp, to crafts that bring more goblin style into your life, to fashion and decor tips that will bring goblin-y goodness to your home and closet, this book offers all kinds of advice and activities that will help you unlock your inner goblin. Are you interested in spending more time outside or spending more time on your outfits? Would you rather learn to forage or learn about frogs? In here, you don't have to choose. Learn about any and all of the weird hobbies and unexpected interests that your goblin heart desires. This is all to say that the goblin life is for everyone. It can be as simple or complex as you want to make it, and ultimately, it's up to you to decide what kind of goblin you want to be. The goblin world welcomes everyone, and it has a lot to teach us about how to create a more inclusive, interesting world. Embracing your inner goblin means embracing the things we're taught to ignore about human nature, the good, the weird, and the sticky. It's about getting back in touch with our inner child and giving that child the steering wheel. If any of this sounds good to you, you might just be a goblin. So that is a little intro from the book. Now, hopefully, you have a better sense of what the whole vibe is, what the book is about, what Goblin Core is.
McKayla, can I just say goblin-y goodness is really good.
Oh, thank you.
Also, I'm just getting from the chat if you maybe if you can get a little closer to your mic or speak a little louder if you would.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
Let
I can
me
hear you okay. But maybe just a little. And then folks, if you can turn up the volume on your computers, that'll probably help if you haven't.
let me stop screen sharing for 1 second so I can try and fix my mic.
No sweat.
It should be. I'm just using my AirPods, so I think that it is pretty much as good as it's gonna get.
That's as good as it's gonna get.
Um,
Okay, folks.
so many apologies.
No, that's okay. I'm getting now also other folks in the chat saying it's good, it's good. They're okay. So I
Okay,
think we're good.
okay,
Thank you so much.
okay.
Continue.
Yeah, no problem. Um, okay. Next, we're gonna start going over the Goblin Code, um, which is kind of like the tenets of the Goblin Core lifestyle. It's about making the world cozier, weirder, grimier, more caring. It's not really supposed to be like a rigid set of like bylaws and like rules and whatever. It's more of like a loose structure that can guide you in your pursuit of a goblin life. So I wouldn't look at it as like absolutes that you have to live by, but just like a code that you can refer to when you're feeling out of touch with your goblin self and you want to like get back into it. Hopefully this will like simplify that a little bit. Yeah, so don't feel pressure. And these really cute goblin illustrations are all by Marion Churchland, who's the illustrator who illustrated this book, and did an amazing job. The book has lots of illustrations and crafts and recipes and stuff like that. It's like very beautifully designed. I had nothing to do with the design, so I can compliment it a lot without sounding like a jerk. Anyway, the first tenet is see beauty everywhere. So I'm just going to read these from the book because I think that'll be easier. Um, Perhaps easier said than done, but with practice, even the most cynical goblin can restore their sense of wonder. Goblins can appreciate the traditionally beautiful, but what they really love is finding beauty in strange and unexpected places. Maybe there's a crack in the sidewalk that's shaped like a heart, or a childhood doll is starting to look a little haunted, in a good way. Maybe the dirt under a certain tree feels particularly cool and soft, or the sound of the dishwasher is oddly soothing. Beauty doesn't look or feel or sound or taste one particular way. Part of the joy of being a goblin is getting to redefine beauty by your standards and then getting to spend every day of your life looking for glimmering moments of strange, surreal beauty. So basically, like it's up to you. You don't have to just roll with what everyone else thinks is pretty and nice. You have free will, and that includes free will to see beauty in things. A lot of this book is just like you have free will. So spoiler alert. Okay, embrace your weirdness. This is a good one. I like this one a lot. It should be obvious by now that goblins are weird. They're chaotic, charmingly feral little guys who live by their own rules. The goblin lifestyle is all about rejecting beauty norms and living your life the way you want to live it. So is it any surprise that goblins are weird? To truly become a goblin, you have to recognize the weirdness that's been in you all along. Double down on your interests your coworkers would be shocked to hear about. Dress in a way that truly feels good to you, not in a way that's socially acceptable. Explore new hobbies that you previously thought were unmarketable or maybe a little stinky. Deep down, we're all weird. The goblin mindset is just about letting that weirdness rise to the surface and celebrating it. Your open weirdness could inspire someone else to embrace their secret weirdness. Or it might just make you feel more joyful and confident in your everyday life. Either way, when you're weird, you're winning. And that's true. I found that to be true. Okay, get cozy. This one's also huge. I mean, they're all huge because of the tenets of the book, but I, man, I love to get cozy. This is one of the most important tenets of goblindom. There's not much about the adult world that's cozy or allows any kind of personal comfort. We're largely expected to put aside what we want in favor of what society wants us to want. But that's a dumb way to live. If you're always cold in your office, you should be allowed to bring in 3 hoodies and a blanket. If wearing headphones to block out noise makes you feel safe, you should be able to wear headphones all day long. If you need to eat a snack every hour in order to function, you should always have access to delicious food. It's a privilege to be able to worry about things like coziness, but goblins are revolutionary in their belief that survival isn't something you have to earn, and neither is comfort. Basic needs and small joys should both be in reach for everyone. Coziness doesn't end at pillow forts and blanket nests, although these are a great place to start. Being cozy means making space for yourself. Goblins imagine a world where everyone's needs and interests are recognized, a radical new world where everyone can respectfully prioritize their own comfort. Mhm. Okay, celebrate clutter. Here's a strange phenomenon. We make, find, and buy pretty things only to hide them away in closets and cabinets and drawers and boxes. We're expected to be clean and tidy and presentable at all times, even in our own homes when we're alone. This doesn't make any sense. If you're someone who's messy by nature, why should you try to hide that messiness? Embrace it instead. Take out all the little objects that make you feel joy and place them around you so that you can look at them whenever you feel down. Surround yourself with the things you love and keep them in plain view all the time. Clutter can be a great way of showing off what you love and caring about those loves more openly. It's an opportunity to treat the things you love with tenderness and present them in a way that shows how much you care. Goblin clutter isn't about randomly scattering things around, although you can do that if you want. It's about thoughtfully reflecting on the things you love and considering what they mean to you, and then getting to display them in a way that reflects that meaning. It's all about really considering and celebrating the things you own rather than thoughtlessly consuming. Surround yourself with items you love, and you'll always be reminded of the little things that make you special and distinct. Goblin clutter is about allowing yourself to care for the things you have and finding joy and fulfillment in them. Um, I will say that in order to set up for this presentation, I had to push quite a lot of stuff to the far end of this little table that I'm sitting at, including some candlesticks, some plants, a vintage martini glass that I don't have anything in. It's good to have some stuff around. And I love looking at it. You know what I mean? Um, okay, big
You're
community
like you're
member.
like a little crow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, sometimes Goblin Core is also called like Crow Core.
Oh,
Um,
funny.
yes, so that's
That's
another
funny.
thing if you want to look into it more. That's another search term that you can look up.
Okay.
Um, yeah, or like vulture culture, I think also would
Oh,
be
that's
another.
fun.
Yeah,
Really good.
yeah. Um, okay, be a good community member. Um, no goblin is an island. Online, Goblin Core is known for being a welcoming and caring community, and that's because even the most introverted goblins know that being a goblin is better with other goblins by your side. Maybe your goblin community is also internet based, or maybe it's in person. Maybe your goblin community is a bunch of people who write old timey letters to each other sealed with wax. Your community can look however you want it to, but having a community is going to bring you so much more joy to your goblin experience than if you find it, than you would find if you went it alone. So much of the goblin ethos is about pushing back against social and beauty norms and finding a new way through the world. And it's difficult to create a new world like this when we're alone. There are so many other wonderful goblins out there with great ideas and cool treasures, and they're all devoted to this fun, feral aesthetic that has a surprising amount of meaning and power in a late stage capitalist world. When you're interacting with other goblins, make sure to always offer them the care and respect you'd offer anything else in nature. Listen to others, note their boundaries, and speak with care. Being a goblin means understanding your part in a larger ecosystem, and sometimes that ecosystem is a social one. Also, make sure you're being a good community member to the people outside your goblin community. Find a way to use your particular set of goblin skills to improve the lives of those around you. Goblins are thoughtful, compassionate people and have a lot to offer their larger communities. If you know a lot about gardening, maybe help create a community garden in your area. If you're getting really good at knitting, make scarves or hats for your neighbors. Also, if you're bad at knitting, you could still do that. You can start much smaller than this and just give your friends little goblin care packages, satchels of cool tiny objects you found. Any act of care can have a huge impact, and there are few things goblins love more than creating change, and maybe also causing mischief. Honor nature. And again, these illustrations are all from the book. They're so pretty. Marion Churchland, freak it. Um, okay, honor nature. All goblins are part of nature, so all goblins should respect and honor the nature that they come from. But goblins also know that the definition of nature goes beyond pretty flowers, rippling brooks, and beautiful landscapes. Nature isn't just a big, beautiful thing. It's all the little nitty gritty things that come together to make the big, beautiful thing. Nature isn't just wildflowers, but also the earthworms and the dirt that feed the flowers, the birds and bugs that scatter the seeds and pollinate, and the death and decay that are an integral part of the cycle of life. Goblins love every part of nature, particularly the parts that tend to go overlooked. Being a goblin who loves nature doesn't mean you need to live in the woods and eat nothing but plants. You can be a nature loving gob who lives in the suburbs or the big city or the middle of the desert. Nature is everywhere, no matter where you go, and caring for nature extends beyond inaccessible zero waste lifestyles. Plant yourself a little windowsill herb garden using empty yogurt containers. Scatter seeds for butterfly friendly plants in the strips of grass next to the sidewalk. Bring nature into your space by collecting rocks, leaves, flowers, and feathers you find and then displaying them. There are so many ways to invite nature into your life and care for nature where you can. Okay, and then finally, seek out what empowers you. The goblin mindset encourages everyone to make lifestyle choices that are best suited to their continued happiness and comfort, not the choices that are most approved by the dominant culture. Being a goblin is all about finding what empowers you and building a life around that. A lot of our society is based around public performance, but goblin society is the opposite. Goblins celebrate feeling comfortable in your own space and body. They celebrate ignoring useless social performances in favor of the clothes, decorations, and interests that make you feel most at home. Ultimately, being a goblin is about creating a weird, grimy little home in a world that prefers to ignore the weird and grimy. Sometimes this can be a scary thing, so you need to arm yourself with your personal comforts and passions to remind yourself that you deserve a place as much as anyone else. Find the things that will make you feel powerful and deserving of space and hold on to them. Use them to decorate your nest and then share them with others to create a network of empowered goblins. Empower yourself and others to make the goblin space in the world a little bigger and a little more inviting. Um, yeah, so those are the like sort of the building blocks that the book is written around. It goes into a lot of different ways that you can bring goblin core into your house. There's like a chapter on nature, there's a chapter on foraging, there's a chapter on clothes. Like there's all kinds of different like aspects of your life that it goes into, but the whole concept is kind of like based on these on the goblin code, which is like, distilled down. It's like be comfortable, care about other people, um, which are pretty much two of the more important things in the world, in my opinion. I mean, I wrote the book, so it is going to reflect my opinions. Yeah, I think it's like it's I tried to make the book uh not just feel like, you know, completely like it's trying to, I don't know, like I didn't want it to feel just like a thing that we're selling. Like I wanted it to actually represent like the things that I care about and the things that I think about. Even though it is like also like a silly little book about being a goblin. You know, it should have, ideally it will have something for everybody in there. Um, okay, now we get to do the activity. Um, okay,
A
yes. So we're gonna make a really simple 8-page zine about the things that make us feel cozy.
Yeah.
You'll need paper, scissors, pen or pencil, and then if you want any like other crafting objects, colored pencils, markers, crayons. I have some colored pencils in an old candle jar. Um,
Mm.
uh, yeah, whatever you'd like. Um, I think that it's nice to just have a list of things that make you feel better because I feel like a lot of times when I'm like feeling down or feeling like it's really January, I like don't really want to put in the effort to think of something that's going to make me feel better. And it's nice to just like have a list to refer to of things that I know will help me. And they can be like on all different levels of like, go for a walk or like brush your teeth. Like or like plan a trip with your friends or read a book like it can be big things or really small things. I find that like even the littlest bit of enrichment can make you feel a lot better and a lot less depressed. um yeah, so I am also going to read a little bit from the intro to the self-care chapter mud bath because this is kind of like a self-care thing and I wanted
Okay.
to sort of yeah um clarify some of the just the way that goblins view self-care. um okay, it's no secret that the beauty and wellness industries aren't exactly on your side. Rather than focus on accepting and caring for your body, these industries are more determined to improve you and keep you striving for a beauty goal that's always out of reach. If you're tired of thinking of your body as a product to be consumed or a goal to be attained, the principles of goblinhood can help. Being a goblin is all about escaping the claws of capitalism, to the extent that anyone can. And that includes pushing back on the beauty wellness industrial complex and rethinking what self care means to you. Goblins care for themselves because it feels good and they deserve it. Goblins care for themselves in ways that genuinely benefit their mental health. Goblins care for themselves in ways that are weird and sometimes a little gross, but who cares? Goblin self care isn't a performance for others, but a private ceremony in praise of their own minds and bodies. Goblin self care isn't about buying special products or temporarily beating burnout in order to keep grinding. It's about creating positive habits to remind yourself that you matter, that you deserve rest, that your worth lies far outside your productivity. Start making time for goblin self care and see how your view of yourself changes. Another important piece of goblin self care is escaping the search for perfection. Rather than trying to fix yourself or your body, begin to accept the things about it that are different, imperfect, or neglected. This won't be an overnight change. Body image and mental health are struggles that can last a lifetime. No one expects you to wake up tomorrow full of perfect self acceptance and love. But practicing small self care habits regularly can make a difference in the way you feel about yourself over time. Maybe someday you'll realize that the parts of yourself that don't conform to beauty standards, the weird, uncomfortable, ugly parts, are valuable in their own right. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind as we start doing this little activity. That it's not about it's not even really about making a zine that looks nice. You know what I mean? It's about making something that's going to be helpful for you and that
They're
includes
almost more
tips
fun
that
when
are
they
helpful.
don't look nice. I'm sorry to
They're
cut
so
you
much
off.
more fun.
Yeah,
And you
right?
know what? Yeah, all art is good art, really.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
No, I don't want a perfect looking zine. That would be weird.
exactly. Yeah, it would be crazy. Um,
Where did we even get this from?
yeah. Okay, here's a little guide on folding a zine. I think that Jen is going to drop it in the chat. There'll be a little PDF. I just got this off Wikipedia. Um, I'll also show you how to do it with this piece of paper that I have
That would be great. Demonstrations are very
already
helpful for
folded.
sure.
Yeah.
Also, welcome to Jenny, who made it. Yay! Thank you for being
Hi,
here,
Jenny.
Jenny.
Okay, so first you're going to take just a regular A4 sheet of paper. Yours will not have a hole in it. I just already cut mine to make sure that I remembered how to do this, basically. You're going to fold it hot dog style, and then you're going to take the hot dog style and fold that in half. So now you have a smaller sort of hot dog vibes. And then you are going to fold it in half once again to make this little rectangle. Um, and once you have folded it those times, we're going to open it back up and you'll see these little different squares will eventually become the pages. Next, what you're going to do, you open it up, you're going to fold it again. Is this hot dog or hamburger? Hamburger, I believe.
Hamburger, I think.
Yeah. And then you're going to take the folded edge, so not the open edge, but the folded edge. You're going to take a pair of scissors and cut to this middle line so that you have this opening here. And then once that's done, and open it up yet again. And you're gonna go for another hot dog fold. And this time you're gonna sort of squish everything in like this. So this is the folded edge of my paper, and this is the folded edge down here. This is the open edge. Here's the opening. You're gonna squish it all together, and then you're gonna fold like this. And that will make you an 8-page theme. It seems like you guys both could follow that, so that makes me feel like probably other people could as well, which is exciting. Yes, so now you'll have an 8-page zine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the back page. Easy. Everybody did such a good job on that. Yeah. Okay. For the page order, sorry about this really low quality JPEG. Uh, actually, it doesn't even matter because we already folded them, so you could just basically ignore that. But for the page order, you're going to have your cover page. And then I was thinking that we could organize the rest of it by like the senses, because of that, like, I don't know if anyone else has ever done this, but there's that like grounding meditation exercise where it's like you're supposed to think about like things that you can touch, like, and in your head, like think of 3 things you can touch, think of 3 things you can smell, like right now, and it's like grounds you and puts you in the moment. It's a good like thing if you're feeling anxious, also, to sort of like remind you where you are. So I thought this would kind of overlap with that, and each page would cover a different sense and something that makes us feel cozy that is associated with that sense. And then also, since it's 8 pages and not 6 pages, and there's 5 senses, the last 2 pages will be snacks and activities. Um, so yeah, this should be like a nice little book that you can refer to whenever you're feeling not cozy, and that will have hopefully like a lot of options for things to make you feel cozy. So
It's such a good
those are
idea too
there.
to have something like you said you can refer to without having to like think too hard or at all, even if you can help it.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I've used lists before that have been very helpful. Like, I'm like my brain is too full. I need something to guide me.
mm-hmm. Yes,
No
exactly.
joke. And
It's
then you
so
get to like
nice.
check it or cross it off and you're like, I got out of bed today. Mm,
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and it can be as simple as get out of bed. Like these don't have to be like get on the friggin' bus and go to a museum. You know what I mean? You don't always got bus energy.
that's a chore, yeah.
Um, yeah,
Energy. That's
yeah.
like, uh,
Um, okay, so for your cover page, call it whatever you want. I'm gonna call mine cozy book, and mine is gonna be very simple because I will like technically I'm gonna be making one of these, but I'm also mostly gonna be talking. And if anyone has any questions or anything while we're doing this, go ahead and drop them. This is like a very casual, part. So for my examples for touch, I've got a stuffed rabbit named Marmalade, who is very soft, stuffed animal fur. And also like the pages of any book, as long as the edges are not beveled. Sorry.
hmm,
Like,
interesting.
um, especially like a really old, like an old paperback where they're like such soft edges of the pages, like
Mhm.
those are the best. Um, and then I love how soft my sheets get after I wash them. Um, and those are like I tried to pick kind of a range of things where it's like um some of them are kind of obvious, like a stuffed animal or maybe your dog or cat. Um, and then like the pages of a book is nice because it's like there's a lot of books in my apartment, like that's a really easy thing for me to find that's going to make me feel a little bit more grounded. And also kind of inactivity, because maybe then it makes me want to read. I don't know. And then my sheets is nice because it's like you don't have to limit your sense of touch to just your hands. You know what I mean? Like, um, maybe like touch means like feeling warm also for you. And it's like, oh, like my blanket makes me feel warm. Um, we can get a little general with it. And yeah, so just don't like, back yourself into a corner with any of these definitions. And also like come up with as few or as many as you want. Like obviously the more the merrier. But I don't know. I'm a Virgo. I'm actually a double Virgo, so I really love lists. So I was like, how am I going to work a list into my little event?
Mm.
Yeah. Um, okay, smells. I have a favorite candle. It's kind of bougie, but it smells really good. Your favorite smell does not have to be a candle. Uh, it could be like, um, yeah, anything. I've also, food being cooked. Pretty much all food. I like the smell. I love food, just generally any food being cooked. I listed some specifics here, because also it's like maybe if I'm feeling down and I'm like, oh, I think if my apartment smelled like garlic right now, I'd feel a lot better. Also, I'm hungry. Then I can like make a little garlic centric recipe. Also, like mushrooms being cooked smells so crazy good. Like that's been like my big thing recently. I've just been like, I'll get like a bunch of mushrooms like pre-cut, and then I'll put olive oil and like some thyme on them and roast them. And I'll get like a, a hunk of bread and just like rip off the bread by hand and like eat that with the mushrooms. And that's dinner.
That sounds
It
dope.
makes me feel very like French and like a French peasant. Um, so
Champignon. Mm.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
That
then my
sounds
best friend's
amazing.
perfume. Yeah, highly recommend. Um, my best friend's perfume collection is nice because like one of my best friends and I are both really into perfume, and so like when I see her when I'm visiting home, I'll like go over and smell all the perfumes that she's gotten that I haven't gotten. I can be like, ooh, I want to get this one. Ooh, I don't actually like that one. I thought I would. And also it's nice because there's like the social element of just getting to see my friend, and spend time with her. I think it's interesting how much these little things like this, that we can remind ourselves of with this book, can like encourage you to like you start small, and then you move on to like the larger types of self-care, like seeing a friend or cooking dinner or something like that. And that can start just by being like, hmm, what kind of smell would I like to smell right now? Um, okay, sounds. I think my partner has a great laugh, and I love it when she laughs. Um, Sorry for being a simp. Um, I really love, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to
Mm.
a lot of my brother and me. Um, I really like If Books Could Kill, also is a great podcast. Nothing Much Happens is a great if you're falling asleep. She's like, does this podcast where every episode is set in the same town called Nothing Much. And there's like different characters and pets and stuff that recur. And like it's just like really simple stories. I don't know. I kind of think she might be a genius. I don't know the name of the woman who podcasts it, but I kind of like need to send her like a fan email because like I think she might actually be a genius. She's a really good writer. But it's like sometimes I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, I'm like craving the sound of one of my favorite podcasters' voices right now. Like I need to listen to it. And then when I listen to it, I'm like, oh, suddenly I feel so much better and I can do the dishes and I can vacuum and I can do all this stuff that I didn't want to earlier. Um, and then, yeah, something very simple, rain on a window pane. Everybody likes
Mm.
a good little rain noise. It was very rainy here in Seattle today. So I got a lot of that. Um, yeah.
Should
Um,
I
This is like
should I
Sorry.
a
put
goal book. Oh yeah, no, Jenny, you get it.
Oh, I was gonna say should I put the link on the for that Nothing Much Happens website on here?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, do
definitely.
it. Good
Okay.
call.
I,
Yeah,
okay. It's a great looking website. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah,
it's
that sounds
great.
very
It's
cool.
it's so sweet. Um, Yeah, okay. For sight, I like my indoor plants, I like the way that the light looks when it comes through them. I like watching them grow. I like just having that little bit of like life and green around is really nice. I know that this is kind of like antithetical to goblin culture, but I like having a clean apartment. You don't have to like that. That's just there's something in my brain where like if there's like a little pile of clutter somewhere in my apartment, like I can't relax. Um, and I'm working on it. But for now, it's nice to know that like when I'm feeling stressed out about something, I can just go pick up that pile of clutter and put it away, and then I will feel infinitely better. And it didn't take very much, and then I can just look around and see that it's nice. Also, I'm very nosy, so I like when I go to someone else's house and they have books on their bookshelf. I like to see what books they have. Um, I like to imagine what kind of person they are based on what kind of books they have, not in a mean way. Usually, I like when I'm watching something and there's books somewhere. That's another nice one because it also has a little bit of a social element to it. Um, and it's also nice because it's like when I'm at like a social event or something and I'm feeling kind of anxious, I'm like, I'm just gonna go check out their bookshelf for a little while and look at that and sort of walk away, but in a way where I'm not like fully pulling away from the event. Taste. These are mostly going to be foods, but I mean, to me, but like if you have things that taste good to you that aren't foods, obviously go ahead. And you can be as like general or as specific as you want. Like I love any kind of coffee in the morning. Like that's pretty vague. But like specifically, if I'm getting a fancy coffee, then I want a lavender latte. You know, that's kind of my go-to fancy coffee, like a hot lavender latte. Also my favorite food, which I call God's perfect food, is bacon, egg, and cheese on a plain bagel. I lived in New York for a couple for 2 years, so I know all about bagel.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that's like literally my favorite food. I don't think there's anything that could beat it. And then I like any food that I make for a friend. Um, I just think it tastes better when I'm like cooking for someone that I care about, and when I know that I'm going to get a lot of compliments on it. That always makes things taste better. um,
Definitely goes
yeah,
down
so
easier for sure.
yes, and it does. Um, yeah, so just a reminder to like, you know, maybe set a little time aside in the morning for your special morning drink, or like make sure you're having your favorite food somewhat regularly, or like cook for someone or ask someone to cook for you. It's okay to ask for help. That's really important, an important part of the Goblin Code, and being a community member. Um, okay, snacks. This is so important. I personally like always need to have a list of like snacks and stuff. I'm like in eating disorder recovery, and so I like have had to spend a lot of time over the last few years like thinking about food very actively, but not in a disordered way, which is like really hard. Um, and keeping lists of foods that I like and can make easily has been like huge, especially because like I was never very good at snacking. And so I think that like having like a list of snacks that are easy to make, easy to eat, like easy to keep in your pantry. Also, like especially stuff that like will keep for a while, is great. That will like you can leave in your pantry for like a couple months and then come back to like is awesome. Like popcorn. Um,
Mm.
so and also food is like one of those things where like there's nothing that makes me feel better than eating when I'm hungry. Like there's no thing that will make me feel better faster than like the act of eating when I am hungry. It's just such an easy solution, and it's like joyful because food is so good and delicious. Like just everything about it is excellent. Um so I
It's
love
really
popcorn.
interesting. I never
Yeah,
thought much about it as being like an itch you're scratching.
it is. Yeah,
That's
yeah. You got your
interesting.
cravings. Yeah.
Like a relief. Hmm.
It is. Yeah. And you're immediately like mood boosts. Like your brain's back
Hmm.
on.
Yeah.
Um
Am I like onset dementia earlier or am I
yeah.
hungry? It's
Exactly. Have I just not eaten
sometimes.
in a while?
Why
Am
am
I
I
having the worst
angry?
day? Yeah,
Mhm.
Or
exactly.
yeah, why am I so upset? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just hungry.
Yes. I'm saying keep a list of snacks because then
Mhm.
next time you're feeling angry, refer to your list of snacks before you refer to anything else, and you will probably be surprised by how much of your anger that just randomly takes away. um, yeah. So I love popcorn. I love microwave popcorn. I love stovetop popcorn. It's really easy to make stovetop popcorn. All you need is canola oil and popcorn kernels and salt. That is it. I make it for my friends, and they're always like, I know you're adding a secret extra ingredient that you're not telling us about. And I'm like, I literally am not. I'm just cooking on the stove. So like extremely do that. Um, apple slices and chocolate is nice. I was like, when I was writing Mothman as my boyfriend earlier this year, that was like my afternoon snack every day because I love apples and then the chocolate, like a little bit of dark chocolate, was just like a little extra kick, and there's like a little bit of caffeine in it, and it just was like a nice, sweet, little treat, and it made me feel kind of fancy to eat apple slices and like dark chocolate. I was like, yeah, I'm a grown up, like I'm basically eating like a grown up snack. Um, and then I love bread and olive oil. Hard to beat bread and anything really. Especially if you put like some Parmesan cheese and salt and pepper in the olive oil and have like a little moment. You get like some like crusty bread, especially like if it's like spring or summer. Like that's a romantic moment that you created for yourself. Um, you are on the French Riviera
I
basically,
was gonna
as long
say
as it's kind of
again,
sunny out.
I'm getting very French vibe.
Yeah. I like to pretend that I'm like I have to get I'm like I'm living in the fantasy world and I have to like do all these little things that align with it. And that's Goblin Core. So
It's fun. Put a little blanket out on your living room floor and have your bottle of wine
exactly.
and
Yes. And you can do that and no one is stopping you and that is free will. And no one cares if you do that. I used to like text my friends when I was in grad school and be like, "Hey, do you want to like go to this museum and pretend to be French for the day?" And that just means like we wear a cute outfit and walk around a museum. Um, and we didn't get any weird looks or anything. I mean, everybody's just normal. It's not a weird thing to do, but like, you know, people you get in your head about stuff like that, but you can actually do whatever you want. Um, yeah, activities. These can be as simple as you want them to be. Take a shower is so nice. It's like you're warm, you're clean, you've gone into a little room for a while that's away from everything else in your place. Um, and I feel like I just feel so much better after that. And it's such a small thing. Like brushing my teeth also is a big one where I'm like, sometimes when I'm feeling really like depressed or something, I'll be like, I'm just gonna like brush my teeth and have a glass of water. And that like turns my day around. Um, making a playlist, and that's something where like now you have a playlist to listen to or a playlist to send to a friend. Um, like that's just it's good vibes. Um, read for 10 minutes. Like sometimes you are bored and you don't really know what to do and you're like, I don't really want to read. Because I don't really feel like getting into a whole book. But it's like if you just give yourself like 5 or 10 minutes, you'll feel even if you don't want to keep reading after that time period, you'll feel like you did something. Um, and frankly, you'll probably keep reading. Um, but again, if you don't, no judgment. I don't care. I don't care what you
I was
do.
just reading recently that um, motivation doesn't start with your thoughts, it starts with action. As soon as you
Mm,
start doing something, your motivation kicks in to keep going. I did,
oh,
I never thought of it that way before.
me neither. That's good to know. That's very insightful.
that is
Yeah.
very like mind blowing actually. That's such a good idea because then you're like, well, I'm already doing it. Or like I already like prepped everything to do it. So I just will
Hmm.
just do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hot tip, Jenny, hot tip.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like, I think we've always told ourselves, like, if I just get started a little bit, it'll be easier. I've told my kids that too. And sure enough, just a little start, like,
Yeah.
does work. So I think on some level, we already really know that.
Yeah. That's
No,
true.
it's
But yeah,
backed
it
by
is. And it's,
data.
yes. And it's nice to know that like the little start can be the whole thing.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be a little start for like a day long project. It's like maybe today I just do this thing for
Hmm.
a minute or like one rep or whatever, you know.
That's
I
my
think
favorite way to trick
sometimes
myself.
yes, yes.
I'm always like,
And
I'll
then
just
there's
do a little
important.
bit and then I'll stop and I'll come back to it.
Yeah. And then I do the whole thing.
And then you just do it. No, exactly.
Yeah. And then it's done, which is amazing. That's the best feeling. Um, okay. Oh, right. Forgot. Um, I also want to say that you don't have to do anything if you're feeling bad. You don't actually have to do any of the things that you just wrote down in this zine. You can do nothing and you can just feel bad and feel sad and sit in that. And that is as valid as anything else. Um, there's a whole section in the book about wallowing. Um, so I'm going to read the little introduction to that, although it is like, it's a whole section with like steps and stuff like that of like, do this and then do this to get cozy and to like really get into your feelings, but not in a bad way. So the benefits of wallowing. Have you ever noticed that the word wallow can be used to describe lying in the mud, taking pleasure in something, or getting deep in your feelings? Being in a bad mood or in the most indulgent bed of your life, use the same verb, the one that means rolling around like a pig in a puddle. Maybe there's a way to bring the same joy we get from luxuriating or getting dirty to our darker feelings. What if, instead of letting difficult feelings overwhelm us, we tried sinking deep into the sticky, swampy depths and let ourselves feel good by feeling bad? It can be cathartic to let the emotions that we normally suppress bubble up to the surface without judging them or trying to contain them. You don't need to let these feelings take over your life, but being able to recognize and accept them instead of stomping them back down is a skill worth practicing. Rolling around in the mud is a joyful act of embracing the soggier aspects of life, and so is rolling around in your feelings. Treat your pain with the same tenderness you treat a tadpole you found in a puddle, and get ready to wallow. But yeah, like just be soft and gentle and tender with yourself. Um, and this zine can be a really nice way to help you move out of, you know, a bad feeling if you feel like that's what you need to do. But I think it can also be equally important to like learn to sit with your bad feelings or like not bad, but like, you know, more difficult, more challenging feelings. Um, like that, like a lot of times, you know, I'll spend all day trying to feel better from something. And then when I decide that I can't do anymore and I just spend 10 minutes feeling like indulging myself and feeling bad, like that's what makes me feel better than like the full day of, you know, uplifting activities before it. Um, so yeah, just give yourself permission to like move slowly, um, and be kind to yourself and be kind to the people around you. Um, yeah, I think that that's the last. Okay, yes. So I actually did not do any of my zine. So because I was just talking the whole time, I apologize. Um, but I hope that you guys at least got like a nice little start on a zine, and we can do questions if anybody has any questions. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
let's see what you
Jenny,
got. Yeah,
you
you
did
have
so
so much. Oh
much.
my gosh. Mine's,
Whoa,
I tried not to do as much with the words, so I have little doodles.
cute.
Little
Oh my gosh,
doodles.
that's so cute.
That's really
Oh,
cute. I love that.
whoa.
I'm gonna
Great
actually
job, you
use
guys.
it, so I want it to be good.
Hmm.
And I like that the zine is like I used a Sharpie and it didn't bleed through. So it's, the
Hmm.
zine is because it's folded, it's thick enough to handle like markers. So that's nice.
That was a
Smart.
good call. Yeah, it's a good call.
Hmm.
Yours is very, I should go over mine with marker. That's a good call.
Hmm.
I like where your head is at. Well, we haven't actually had, I don't think, any questions that I have seen. There's been some cool, like words of encouragement. We need so many more people to embrace what makes them them, which is good. Um, and
We
then
do.
this is like a goal book talking about the zine. It reminds us that we may be stuck in a rut if we find we are missing part of our senses that are super important to us, which is true.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think you've summed everything up brilliantly. There's just
Great.
no room for questions. We have a few more minutes, obviously, though. So if anyone has any parting thoughts or questions or anything they want to share, feel free. We'll hang out for a couple minutes here.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
anybody wants to, add things that they put on their in their zine, if they added anything, like I'm always up for a good recommendation. So,
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love getting a recommendation. Like,
mhm.
please share if you have anything
Also,
good.
even if you have like just something that was kind of maybe a little weirder, I you
Mm,
put on the smell, I think, the food cooking, like onions and garlic.
Hmm.
mm.
But I actually put that on my sound one because that's like my favorite
Oh,
sound,
it is a
specifically is
good sound.
onions and garlic. The smell
Yeah.
too, for sure, but there's a specific sound that onions make in butter, and it's
Yeah. I love like boiling water. Like when you're boiling water for pasta, like
mm,
that's a great sound for
Mm.
me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Um,
Someone says
I
that
can
they're
also
going to
talk
share
about,
this with their daughter and granddaughters. Just
Oh,
oh,
that's
thanks.
nice.
that's so
It's very
cute.
sweet. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. Share this with everybody. These are like, I mean, I haven't done this in zine form before, but I do like have several journals that have just like a bunch of stuff like this in them, just lists. I just like making lists. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm glad that people are enjoying it.
Oh, sorry. I do have to say this one too. I can't wait to read your book. I'm in my feral raccoon phase and may add some goblin in my day.
Yes, I think that the feral raccoon and goblin aesthetics are very compatible. Um,
I love
yeah,
that. It's so funny. It sounds like oh, the moon is in like Saturn's feral raccoon phase and it's gonna be a
yeah,
wild one.
yeah, yeah. Your sun, feral raccoon sun, goblin core moon,
Yes, yeah.
crow core rising or whatever.
I was gonna say yeah, culture vulture rising for sure.
Yeah,
Culture brother. That's so
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
Oh yes, please do. Yes, we have Goblin Mode obviously at Sno-Isle. And we are going to be ordering Mothman is my boyfriend. So yeah, if you want to talk about that for a second, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Goblin Mode is the first book that's been up since 2023. It's very cute. I hope you guys like it if you read it. Um, and then the next book is called Mothman is My Boyfriend, and that comes out in May. It is a short story collection of cryptid romances. And it's all set in one town called Cryptid Creek, where cryptids and humans live side by side. And it's kind of like cute and sweet and romantic and cozy and sexy. There will also be like three bonus stories that are like very explicit. The book itself we wanted to make so that like if a teenager picked it up, they would not be scarred for life. Like it's not the book does not get too it doesn't get anatomical, but the bonus stories do get very anatomical, but they are not automatically included. Um, and it's got illustrations. It's got a map in the front
Oh, fun.
of the town.
That's very
Yeah.
library conscious of you for we don't know who's grabbing this.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
As someone who accidentally grabbed a lot of books like that when I was a kid, you know, they have sex and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Like,
Oh
I
yeah,
did not know that.
that's funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. I didn't know that either. I was also a library kid though, so I for sure got into some weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, if anyone has any other questions, please do keep dropping them in or chat with each other. I am just going to go over a couple of quick things to wrap up here. So thanks again, everyone, for joining in this evening. We appreciate you all being here. This program has been recorded, so if you would like to refer back to any information presented tonight, head over to our YouTube page at Sno-Isle, and we will drop that link in the chat. And then a couple of upcoming online programs that might interest some of you if you were into this one. So tomorrow, actually, Wednesday, January 7th at 4 p.m., we are hosting Tai Yamamoto for an origami workshop. Online origami workshop. So if you enjoy DIY and paper crafting kind of stuff, check that out. Also on Wednesday, January 21st, so a little bit out at 6 p.m., we have Ryan Sparrow teaching the basics of digital photography. So that also a creative endeavor if you're interested in branching into the digital form of photography. That'll be a good one. So registration is required for both of those events. If you can follow the links in the chat or just go to our website, if you browse events, you can get signed up for whatever resonates with you. So thank you so much to McKayla for sharing their expertise on going Goblin Mode. And yeah, I'll leave a couple minutes here if anyone wants to say anything else. Have any questions, McKayla, please?
Yeah. I thank you for having me. This was really a nice way to spend, especially such a rainy, blustery January day.
Mhm.
Yeah, no joke. I honestly, yeah, I should have probably mentioned that in my like thanks for being here in like the middle of the night on a podcast.
Literally, I know it's so dark. I keep looking out my window and being like, oh my God, it's somehow even darker than it was before.
Somehow it's getting darker. It's becoming
Yeah.
tangible.
Yeah. Moving into the mortal world.
Mm,
Um,
okay. Well, I don't think we have any questions. So yeah, thanks to you guys.
okay.
Thanks to everybody. We're getting lots of thanks in the chat to you, McKayla. I'm excited about your
Yeah.
book. Yeah,
Thank
great.
you
Okay.
all. I'm glad you all
Thanks
had a good time.
everybody. Yeah, thanks, Ginny. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to
Thank you
meet you,
so much.
McKayla. Have a good night,
Nice to meet you
everybody.
guys too. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Hey,
Year.
thanks you
Bye.
too. Yeah. Bye,
Yeah.
everybody.